morning, good morning, good morning. We have some little noisies back there. Behave. If you hear a rustle, you know where it's coming from. Good morning, guys. How are you? I hope you guys had a great weekend. Some rest. Just to preempt, I have been giving you guys rest on the weekends, given that that is also my time to go ahead and rest. But it's Monday. Let's go ahead and jump right into our daily message. And I did have extra time this morning to go ahead and transcribe a good portion of the first part of 2nd Chronicles. We will be talking about Solomon, some of it familiar from what we've gone over in Kings. But let's go ahead and start out here in the Qur'an, okay? In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Hey, nice. This is Surah 18 from Al-Kahf, which means the cave. Very familiar with Surah 18. And to start, I usually just jump right in, right? I get into the message, start up my camera, make sure my scarf is in good order, and I just jump right into the message without really giving too much forethought. Although today, I'm asking the Lord, to please talk really what He wants to talk about. And as I ask Him that, right, He gives me something that I would like to talk about. But maybe because I've been thinking about a certain topic, maybe He was actually the one promoting me to think about the topic that I'll discuss in this lovely line here, which we have read before. So it will help that it's pretty familiar to us. This is line 7, and it reads, "That which is on earth we have made but as a glittering show for the earth, in order that we may test them as to which of them are the best in conduct." So we've read this before, we've spoken about this before, and perhaps we have some new insight this time around. I will be honest with you, I told you this birthday, this last birthday that I've had has been a moment of introspection, or it's offered me and granted me a little bit more of an introspective nature, I would say. And, even if it was just a glimpse into, a bigger idea or a bigger thought, I really tried to dig into that thought and understand it as I should understand it. And then, of course, the questions come up. And I even asked my husband a question, like this. I remember mentioning to you guys, like this, the earth is so funny. I told you we have our little homes, and we all go inside at night to go sleep in our little houses. Everyone has their own place of being, for the most part. And we each have our little jobs that we go and we make money, and we really just make money to go ahead and eat our food, right? Or to enjoy the little things in life. But everybody has their little, dwellings. It just, at that, for some reason, it just intrigued me just a little bit. For some reason, it just felt like kind of goofy. I don't know why. But anyways, that moment of introspection, I was just kind of trying to dig into that and trying to see. I know where it's coming from. But again, just feeling like, why am I having this feeling? So this goes along with that thought. And so I asked my husband, I'm like, what if this earth, right, is just kind of a waiting room just not to put it so much like that, but kind of just like a place where we go, where time is different, right? 80 years to us feels like, a decently long time. It's definitely a good long life, 80 to 90 years. But remember, we've spoken about before that the time in other realms, in heavenly realms, a few minutes is like billions of years, a few minutes here on earth. So I'm thinking, what if we just go here, right, to go ahead and spend our time as we would, but really time elsewhere is stretched beyond our belief and imagination. So what if we're sent here to just go ahead and wait, to exercise patience as to what is being prepared for us and for others in the higher realms. So I thought it was a decent thought. I'm like, that kind of makes a lot of sense. Although he said, it's not just, my husband's like, no, he loves to disagree with me, by the way. That's what makes it so good when I bring up things to him, because it actually helps me adjust what might normally be a little bit of a consuming train of thought. But he says no, right? He says no, and I do trust his express no. Hold on, let me just finish this. Which of them are best in contact? Anyways, he said no. I'm like, okay, why? He's like, because everybody on life, they do have a purpose. It's not just so we sit here and live our lives and wait and be good, right? So the good part we can get into. But everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a mission. You have lessons to learn, and it's not just like we can just sit here and live. Kind of expounding on the fact that a lot of us are just, sitting here and living. We're eating, we're going to sleep, we're waking up, we're going to work, we're doing our errands, we're doing our tasks, making up the majority and the bulk of our day. Sometimes we don't even have the capacity to do our little tasks. As I'm thinking about my dishes that are still in the sink from yesterday. Yesterday was a very lazy day. Okay, the movies were going, the TV was running, and the dishes were just sitting, and I'm thinking about doing them later, okay? But that should have been done yesterday. So sometimes we don't even have the capacity to accomplish what we should accomplish during the day. Even then, those little accomplishments are so remedial, right? They're so blah, right? Who cares? But expounding on Ian's perspective, he says, no, everybody does have a mission and a purpose, and it is your life's work and it is your life's mission to go ahead and discover that purpose and enact upon it. Okay, we're not just here sitting and waiting. There's actually things that need to be done. There's actually work that needs to be done before we can graduate, if you will, before we can move on to the bigger and the much, 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 much better. Okay? So that makes sense. That makes sense. Why are we being rewarded, right? Like, isn't this, I think people assume that this already is a reward. Our life is a reward. But it's very clear that here in this line 7, it says here, we have made life, that which is on earth, we have made, but as a glittering show for the earth. So it's literally a distraction. It's literally a glittering show, that we may test them as to which of them are best in conduct. So it's a show, there's distractions, there's plot twists, there's all of these things that would incorporate like a show or play or display. And then there's these tests that are worked in to each and every day, whether they're perceived or not perceived. They're worked into our day. So it's very clear here that, we're not just sitting here living life, trying to have the best time. It's going to be difficult. It's going to have tests. There's going to be things that we do need to be knowledgeable of moving on. Because the more that we enact our skills, the more that we use our skills, that is actually helping us build what we have in the future. And the more that we incorporate our purpose, is helping us build what we have set aside for us in the higher, better realms, right? I don't want to say higher, but in the heavenly realms, the other realms. So, yeah. So it's not just, it's cool that we get to relax sometimes and do things like that, but there are really tests incorporated into each day. There are a lot of distractions, and I can attest to that easily because I fall victim to them quite frequently. Okay? But we've read this before, and it's just something to think about, working in your purpose, working in discovering your purpose. If it's not quite there yet, definitely just working it in and being honorable to the Lord, pleasing Him with your actions and your decisions, consulting Him if anything, right? If there is that confusion, if there is that hesitation, definitely take the time to consult, because that's really also what we're here to do, is to remember that we do have this connection to God. We do have this relationship with God. So how much we incorporate that is going to benefit us or not benefit us if it's the other way around. So really incorporating that God being in our life, our God being. Sorry. It's a little bit. Okay, let me put a title here and let's move on. I'm going to leave you here, and I will catch you in just a few minutes. We're going to actually talk about purpose. We're going to talk about, again, purpose with Solomon. We're going to learn about his life's purpose, and we are going to learn about also the goals and desires. So what factors are incorporated into Solomon's glittering show of earth? Let's go ahead and move on from there. Alright, I'll talk to you guys in just a few minutes. Peace. Thanks for listening.